The Galactic Tournament of Power. The year was 2147, and humanity had just begun to explore the distant reaches of space. Earth's colonies stretched to the edge of the solar system, but compared to the vastness of the galaxy, humans were still tiny specks in an infinite universe. Then, one fateful evening, the sky over Earth lit up with a mysterious signal, a broadcast in every known language, even those Earth hadn't yet discovered. The broadcast was chilling. Attention, sentient species of the galaxy. The Galactic Tournament of Power begins in 7 days. Your world, Earth, has been selected as a participant. Each species must send one champion. The winner will secure their planet's safety. The losers will face extinction. The words sent shockwaves across Earth. Humanity, still new to interstellar exploration, had never heard of such a tournament. Governments scrambled to gather information. What was this tournament? Why had Earth been chosen? And most importantly, what did they stand against? In orbit, Earth's newly built space station received a flood of data from nearby alien civilizations. The Galactic Tournament was ancient, a tradition older than most stars. It was created to keep balance in the galaxy, pitting civilizations against each other in contests of strength, intellect, and survival. To many alien species, it was an honor. To humanity, it was a nightmare. "We're not ready for this," President Amina Grant said during a global broadcast. Her voice was steady, but the worry in her eyes betrayed her calm words. "We need to select a champion who can represent Earth, someone who can fight, think, and survive against the most advanced species in the galaxy." The decision of who to send became a global debate. Some suggested military leaders or athletes. Others argued for scientists or inventors. The aliens watching Earth through their advanced systems found the debate amusing. Among the stars, humans were seen as weak, primitive, and chaotic. They weren't warriors or strategists. They were children playing with technology they didn't fully understand. But one name kept rising in the discussions: Dr. Lina Torres. Lina wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a genius in combat or strategy. She was a scientist, a biologist who had spent her life studying survival, how creatures adapted, thrived, and endured against impossible odds. Her work had helped terraform Mars and created crops that grew in the harshest environments. People believed that if anyone understood survival, it was Lina. At first, Lina resisted the idea. "I'm not a fighter," she told the council overseeing Earth's preparation. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized this wasn't just a physical battle. It was a fight for humanity's place in the galaxy. And she believed humanity had something no other species truly understood: the ability to overcome when the odds were impossible. 7 days passed quickly. Lina stood aboard Earth's first interstellar transport, the EOS, as it docked with the alien arena, a massive moon-sized station floating at the edge of the galaxy. It was a spectacle unlike anything humans had ever seen. Thousands of alien species filled the stands, their forms varying wildly: towering, crystalline beings, creatures with 6 limbs and glowing eyes, and others that defied human comprehension. When Lina stepped onto the arena floor, the crowd erupted into laughter. To them, she was a joke, a small, fragile human in a plain survival suit. But Lina wasn't here to entertain them. She stood tall, her heart pounding, but her mind focused. A voice boomed over the arena, translating into every known language. "The first round begins. Earth's champion will face Trakar of the Zarkan Empire." The crowd gasped. Trakar was infamous across the galaxy. A cybernetic warrior, half machine and half organic. He towered over Lina, his body a mass of metal and glowing energy. His species had conquered dozens of planets, leaving destruction in their wake. To him, Lina was no more than an insect. "Are you ready to surrender, little one?" Trakar sneered, his voice metallic and cold. Lina didn't flinch. She adjusted the small device on her wrist, a human invention she had personally modified. "You talk too much," she replied calmly. The battle began, and Trakkar charged, his heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Lena didn't try to match his brute strength. Instead, she moved with precision, analyzing his movements. She noticed the weak points in his armor, the way his cybernetic limbs hummed with power but slowed during certain maneuvers. She activated the device on her wrist, releasing a pulse of electromagnetic energy. Trakkar froze mid-charge, his cybernetic systems glitching. The crowd fell silent. No one had expected this. Lena didn't waste time. She used the pause to maneuver behind him, planting a small explosive on a critical joint in his armor. When Trakkar regained control, he swung wildly, but Lena stayed just out of reach. The explosive detonated, disabling his left leg and forcing him to the ground. He roared in frustration, but the match was over. Lena had won. The silence in the arena was deafening. Then murmurs spread through the crowd. Had a human, a species no one respected, just defeated a warrior of the Zarkan Empire. Lena stood in the center of the arena, her chest heaving as she caught her breath. She looked up at the crowd, her voice steady despite the adrenaline. This is just the beginning. The galactic tournament had underestimated Earth, and now the galaxy would watch closely, wondering just how dangerous humans could be when pushed to their limits. The first encounter. Lena's unexpected victory over Trakkar sent shockwaves across the arena and beyond. Among the swirling masses of alien spectators, a new sentiment began to stir: curiosity. How had this fragile, unassuming creature from a backwater planet outwitted one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy? The murmurs turned into debates, and soon, all eyes were on the next match. The galactic tournament's rules allowed each species to observe their opponents, analyze strengths, and exploit weaknesses. Yet, when Lena returned to her quarters after her first victory, she found herself utterly alone. No teammates, no advanced advisors, just her thoughts and the weight of representing Earth. Her quarters were sterile and minimalistic, clearly not designed for comfort. The walls shimmered faintly, projecting data streams about her next opponent. Lena studied them carefully. Her second challenge was going to be completely different. She wasn't facing brute strength this time. She was up against pure speed and precision. Her opponent, Trakkar, came from the steric species, a race of spider-like creatures with 6 thin, jointed legs and reflexes so fast they could dodge laser fire. The Spheric had won countless tournaments due to their unmatched agility. Even worse, Trakkar was their champion, a legend among her kind. As Lena read the data, the shimmering walls shifted, displaying footage of Trakkar in previous matches. She moved like a shadow, impossible to pin down, striking with razor-sharp claws that could slice through steel. Lena felt her stomach tighten. How could she outmaneuver something like that? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. A figure entered the room, their silhouette oddly familiar. Lena tensed until the figure stepped into the light. It wasn't a human, but it wasn't entirely alien either. The being had sleek, metallic skin that shimmered like liquid mercury and glowing blue eyes that seemed to peer into her soul. "I am Rick," the being said, its voice melodic yet mechanical. "I come to warn you, human." Lena frowned. "Warn me about what?" Rick leaned closer, its form bending unnaturally, like water rippling in zero gravity. "The Galactic Council underestimates you, but that does not mean they will let you win. They fear what humanity might become if it survives this tournament." Lena felt a cold chill run down her spine. "Why are you telling me this?" Rick's expression shifted subtly, almost like a sad smile. "Because I know what it's like to be underestimated. My people were once like yours, ignored and discarded, until we proved otherwise. But unlike your Earth, we were crushed before we could rise." Before Lena could respond, Rick dissolved into the air, leaving only the faint hum of alien technology behind. Was this a warning or a trap? Either way, she had no time to dwell on it. The next match was about to begin. The arena was different this time, smaller, more confined, with walls that shimmered and shifted unpredictably. It resembled a maze, designed to disorient and test adaptability. Lena stood at the starting line, gripping a small device she had taken from Earth's research labs. It wasn't a weapon, but a tool for creating holographic decoys. She hoped it would give her the edge she needed. Across the arena, Ticker skittered onto the battlefield, her 6 legs clicking against the ground. The crowd erupted in cheers, chanting her name. She basked in their admiration, her many eyes glinting with confidence. The voice of the arena boomed once more. Begin. Ticker wasted no time, darting forward with astonishing speed. Lena barely had time to activate her decoy. The hologram flickered to life, mimicking her form perfectly. Ticker lunged, her claws slicing through the decoy as if it were real. The crowd gasped, and for a moment, Ticker seemed confused. That was all the time Lena needed. She activated another hologram and ducked behind a shifting wall, her mind racing. Ticker might be fast, but speed meant little without precision. Lena knew she couldn't outmatch Ticker physically, but if she could make the spheric dot herself, even for a second, she might have a chance. The maze shifted again, trapping Lena in a narrow corridor. Ticker's claws scraped against the walls, her silhouette looming closer. Lena planted another decoy and sprinted in the opposite direction. This time, she left behind a small device, a rudimentary sound emitter she had cobbled together during her preparation. As Ticker struck the decoy, the device activated, releasing a high-pitched frequency that disoriented the Spheric. Ticker shrieked, her many legs flailing as she tried to regain her balance. The crowd roared in disbelief. A human, outmaneuvering a Spheric. Impossible. Lena didn't wait for Ticker to recover. She triggered a series of decoys, each one leading Ticker deeper into the maze's traps. With every strike, Ticker grew more frantic, her precision faltering. Finally, Lena reached the arena's control panel, a feature she had noticed during her earlier scans. She hacked into it, using her Earthborn ingenuity to manipulate the maze's shifting walls. The arena closed in around Ticker, trapping her in a small chamber. Before she could escape, Lena activated the final decoy, a hologram that seemed to taunt the Spheric. Enraged, Ticker lunged, only to slam into the wall. Disoriented and defeated, she collapsed. The voice of the arena declared Lena the winner. The crowd erupted once more, this time not in laughter but in stunned awe. A human had defeated a Spheric champion, not with strength or speed, but with intelligence and strategy. As Lena stood in the center of the arena, the weight of her victories began to sink in. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for Earth, for humanity's place in the galaxy. And if the Galactic Council thought she was just a fragile creature from an insignificant world, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. Allies and enemies. Lena's second victory reverberated through the galaxy. The footage of her outsmarting Ticker spread like wildfire, replayed in alien news feeds and whispered about in smoky taverns across countless worlds. Some began to cheer for the human underdog, while others grew wary. The Galactic Council, hidden in their high towers, was among the latter. "She is not like the others," murmured an elder, their crystalline form pulsing with unease. "Humans are supposed to be insignificant, yet she has twice defied our expectations. This cannot continue." The council's deliberations turned sinister. Plans were drafted, unseen strings pulled. If Lena was to be eliminated, it wouldn't happen in the open. They would ensure her downfall through more subtle means. Meanwhile, in the cold, sterile quarters assigned to her, Lena sifted through the tournament data. The next match would be different yet again. This time, a battle of strategy and survival rather than direct combat. Her opponent was unknown, their profile shrouded in mystery. The only clue was a name, Callus of the Draveri. Lena had never heard of the Draveri. She combed through the archives, but there was nothing. No history, no culture, no weaknesses. It was as if they had been erased from existence. The thought unsettled her, but she pushed it aside. The key to winning, she knew, was to focus on what she could control. As she prepared, a soft knock echoed through her chamber. Lena frowned. Visitors were rare in the tournament. Trust was hard to come by. She opened the door cautiously, her hand hovering near her wrist-mounted holographic device. Standing before her was Rick, the strange, metallic being who had warned her earlier. This time, however, Rick wasn't alone. Beside him stood a towering alien with 4 arms and scales that shimmered like black opals. The new arrival eyed Lena with curiosity, his deep-set eyes glowing faintly. "Human," Rick said, stepping forward. "This is Scalar of the Chirac. He wishes to speak with you." Lena folded her arms, her gaze shifting between the 2 aliens. "Why would a Chirac warrior want to talk to me? I thought everyone in this tournament was either here to fight or watch me lose." Zelor rumbled a deep laugh, his voice resonating like distant thunder. "I do not share the Council's disdain for humans. You've piqued my curiosity. Twice now, you've defied the odds, and I suspect you'll do so again." Lena studied him warily. "And why does that matter to you?" "Because the tournament is a game of alliances as much as competition," Zelor replied. "The Council has no intention of letting Earth survive, no matter how well you perform. They've rigged this contest to eliminate your kind." Rick nodded, his glowing eyes narrowing. "The Draveri are not what they seem. Kalis is a construct of the Council, a test designed to break you." Lena's heart sank. "So, what's your angle? Why warn me?" Zelor stepped closer, his towering form casting a long shadow. "Because the Council fears what they don't understand. If they fear you, it means you have the potential to challenge them. I respect that." "And what do you want in return?" Lena asked, her tone sharp. Zelor smiled, his sharp teeth glinting. "Only that you remember who helped you when the time comes. The galaxy needs chaos to break free from their grip, and I believe humans might just be the chaos we need." The day of the 3rd match arrived, and Lena found herself in a vast, barren desert arena. There were no walls, no boundaries, only endless dunes under a harsh alien sun. The crowd was larger than ever, their excitement palpable. Whispers of Lena's ingenuity had drawn spectators from across the galaxy. As she stepped onto the sand, a low hum vibrated through the air. Kalis emerged from the shadows, his form barely humanoid. He was a mass of shifting, liquid-like metal, his surface reflecting the blinding sunlight. He moved with eerie fluidity, his body morphing constantly, as if deciding what shape to settle into. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. "The match. Survival and capture. The rules. Endure, adapt, and overcome. Begin." Kalis wasted no time. His metallic form sank into the sand, disappearing from view. Lena's instincts screamed at her to move, and she sprinted toward a rocky outcropping in the distance. Behind her, the sand shifted unnaturally, a ripple chasing her like a predator stalking prey. Reaching the rocks, Lena pressed herself against the cool stone, scanning the arena for any sign of Kalis. Her wrist device beeped softly, warning her of movement below. Kalis wasn't just beneath the sand. He was the sand, using his liquid form to blend seamlessly into the environment. Lena activated her holographic decoys, sending 3 copies of herself sprinting in different directions. The sand erupted, Kalis lunging at the nearest decoy. The hologram shimmered and dissolved, confusing him just long enough for Lena to slip away. She climbed higher onto the rocky terrain, her mind racing. Kalis was faster and more adaptive, but she had one advantage: unpredictability. Humans thrived on improvisation, and Lena knew she couldn't fight Kalis conventionally. Using her wrist device, she began broadcasting high-frequency sound waves, a trick she had learned from Earth's experiments with metal-based organisms. Kalis's liquid form quivered violently, his movements faltering. Taking the chance, Lena hurled a small EMP grenade she had salvaged from her earlier battles. The explosion disrupted Kalis's form, forcing him to solidify temporarily. Seizing the moment, Lena activated a containment field from her device, trapping Kalis in a shimmering sphere of energy. The crowd erupted in shock and disbelief. Lena had done it again, defeated an opponent designed specifically to destroy her. As she stood over the trapped Kalis, she raised her head to the stands, her voice cutting through the noise. You underestimated humanity. That's your first mistake. Don't make it again. High above, in the council chambers, the elders watched in silence. Their unease grew. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were winning. And now, the galaxy was beginning to notice. The game of minds. The aftermath of Lena's victory over Kalis rippled through the galaxy. In crowded markets and hidden cantinas, her name became synonymous with defiance. But in the high towers of the Galactic Council, her name was a growing threat. For centuries, the Council had maintained control by ensuring no single species disrupted the balance. Lena's victories were a crack in their carefully constructed order. She is dangerous, an elder hissed, their crystalline voice sharp and cold. Humans should not have reached this far. Another elder, shrouded in a metallic exosuit, replied, The next round will end her. She cannot match the Sauric. The Sauric were legendary, a species of pure telepaths. They didn't fight with strength or speed but with the mind itself. Few had survived their psychic onslaughts, and those who did were left broken. Lena had faced strength and cunning, but now she would have to defend against something far more insidious, her own mind. The arena for the fourth round was nothing like before. It was a featureless void, an endless expanse of white light that seemed to stretch forever. As Lena stepped into the space, she felt a strange pressure in her head, as though an invisible hand was probing her thoughts. A figure materialized before her, tall and translucent, with a constantly shifting form. The Sauric didn't have a single body. They were a collective consciousness, their physical manifestations merely projections. This was Lena's opponent, but it was also so much more. Welcome, human, the Sauric's voice echoed in her mind, soft yet invasive. This match is not one of brute force. It is a test of your mind, your memories, your fears. Are you ready? Lena steadied herself. I don't have a choice, do I? The Sauric smiled, a strange, ghostly expression. No. The match began without warning. Lena was pulled into a swirling vortex of light, her surroundings shifting rapidly. Suddenly, she was standing in her childhood home on Earth. The smell of her mother's cooking filled the air, and laughter echoed from the living room. It was so real, she could almost believe it. But Lena knew better. She touched the edges of the table, felt its smooth surface, and frowned. This isn't real, she whispered. Isn't it? The Sauric's voice replied, now coming from the figure of her father sitting on the couch. You could stay here, Lena. Forget the tournament, forget the danger. Live in peace. Lena's heart ached at the thought. She had lost her parents years ago, and the sight of her father smiling at her was almost too much to bear. But she clenched her fists, grounding herself in reality. No, this is your game, and I'm not playing it. The scene dissolved, replaced by another, a battlefield strewn with the ruins of Earth. The sky was dark, and alien ships hovered ominously above. Lena heard screams, saw the faces of people she had failed to save. The weight of guilt pressed down on her, almost suffocating. This is what awaits your world, the Sauric whispered. Why fight when you know you cannot win? Surrender, and Earth might be spared. Lena closed her eyes, focusing on her breathing. She remembered Rick's warning and Sailor's cryptic advice. The Sauric were manipulators, preying on emotions and fears. They couldn't harm her unless she let them. You're wrong, she said aloud, her voice steady. Humanity doesn't surrender. We adapt. We endure. The pressure in her mind intensified as the Sauric tried a new tactic. Lena found herself in a maze of mirrors, each one reflecting a different version of herself. Some showed her victorious, others broken and defeated. One mirror showed her as a hero, celebrated by humanity. Another showed her forgotten, her sacrifices meaningless. Which one is the real you? The Sorik taunted. Do you even know? Lena hesitated, staring at the fractured reflections. Then she smiled. All of them, she said. Humans aren't one thing. We're contradictions. We're messy. And that's what makes us strong. The mirrors shattered, and the void began to crumble. Lena felt the Sorik's presence retreating, their control slipping. She pressed the advantage, focusing her thoughts on Earth, its beauty, its resilience, its people. The images of her home became a fortress in her mind, shielding her from the Sorik's attacks. The void dissolved, and Lena found herself back in the arena. The Sorik stood before her, their form flickering and unstable. For the first time, they seemed afraid. You are not like the others, they admitted. Your mind is chaotic, unpredictable. We cannot control you. Lena stepped forward, her voice firm. That's humanity for you. We don't follow your rules. The crowd erupted in stunned applause as the match ended. Lena had done the impossible, defeated the Sorik in their own domain. But as she left the arena, she couldn't shake the feeling that this victory had come at a cost. The council would not let this stand. In the shadows of the council chambers, the elders watched in silence. Their fear had turned to anger, and their plans grew darker. Lena had proven herself more than a competitor. She was a threat to their power, and threats had to be eliminated. Humanity's secrets. Lena's victory against the Sorik shattered expectations yet again. Across the galaxy, the perception of humanity began to shift. What was once seen as a primitive, insignificant species was now whispered about with a mix of awe and fear. But with every win, Lena knew the stakes grew higher. The Galactic Council wasn't just watching. They were plotting. In her quarters, Lena sat cross-legged on the floor, reviewing the data she had managed to collect from the arena systems. Despite her victories, her unease deepened. Her next opponent was announced. Crothar of the Gothric, a species renowned for their sheer brutality and relentless endurance. But something about the setup didn't sit right with her. The Gothric were notorious for their savage combat style. Standing at nearly 8 feet tall, with skin like impenetrable rock and claws that could tear through starship hulls, Crothar was a living weapon. Lena studied the footage of his previous matches, noting his brute force and single-minded focus on destruction. He's strong, yes, she murmured to herself, but brute force alone doesn't win battles. He'll have a weakness. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime. The door to her quarters slid open, and Rick stepped inside, their shimmering metallic form casting faint reflections on the walls. You're not safe, Rick said without preamble. The council isn't playing fair anymore. Lena raised an eyebrow. When were they ever playing fair? This time, it's different, Rick replied. The Gothric are dangerous enough on their own, but the council has given Crothar an edge. They've equipped him with enhancements, technologies he wouldn't normally have access to. They don't just want you to lose, Lena. They'd want you destroyed. The arena for her 5th match was a sprawling jungle, dense with alien flora and thick canopies that blocked out the light. The air was humid, and strange sounds echoed through the trees. This wasn't just a battlefield. It was an ecosystem designed to test her in every way. Lena entered cautiously, her senses on high alert. The crowd was hushed, their anticipation palpable. Somewhere in the jungle, Crothar lurked, and Lena knew he wouldn't waste time. The first attack came swiftly. Crothar's massive form barreled through the trees, his claws slashing through the foliage like paper. Lena barely dodged in time, her instincts screaming at her to move. She sprinted deeper into the jungle, using the thick vegetation as cover. Crothar didn't pursue immediately. Instead, he let out a low, guttural growl that seemed to resonate with the jungle itself. The sound wasn't natural. It was a frequency that triggered the environment around them. The trees began to shift, their branches intertwining to block Lena's path. Vines snaked toward her, moving as if alive. Lena's heart raced. The Council hadn't just enhanced Crowther, they had weaponized the arena itself. As the jungle closed in, Lena activated her holographic decoys, sending false versions of herself in every direction. Crowther smashed through one, roaring in frustration. Lena used the distraction to climb a towering tree, her mind racing for a plan. She remembered Rick's warning about the Council's interference. If the jungle was under Crowther's control, she needed to disable it. Pulling out a small device from her gear, she began hacking into the arena's environmental systems. It was a long shot, but if she could disrupt the signal Crowther was using to manipulate the jungle, she might stand a chance. Below her, Crowther sniffed the air, his glowing red eyes scanning the treetops. "You cannot hide forever, human," he bellowed, his voice reverberating through the arena. Lena didn't reply. Her focus was on the device in her hands, her fingers moving quickly as she bypassed layers of alien code. The jungle continued to close in, but Lena's determination only grew stronger. Humans weren't just survivors. They were problem solvers, adapters. This was her edge. Finally, the device beeped. Lena had found the control signal. With a quick command, she sent out a counter-frequency, disrupting Crowther's hold over the jungle. The vines stopped moving, the trees stilled, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. Crowther roared in anger, his advantage slipping away. He charged toward the tree Lena was perched in, his claws tearing into the trunk. The tree shook violently, but Lena was ready. She leaped from the branches, landing behind Crowther, and activated a small EMP device she had prepared. The blast hit Crowther squarely, short-circuiting the enhancements the Council had given him. Sparks flew from the devices embedded in his body, and his movements became sluggish. Lena didn't waste the opportunity. Using the jungle terrain to her advantage, she set a series of traps, sharp branches, pits, and decoys that slowly wore Crowther down. In the final moments, Crowther collapsed, unable to continue. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Lena barely heard them. Her focus was on the Council chambers above, where she knew the elders were watching. As Lena walked off the battlefield, her exhaustion evident, but her resolve unshaken, she was met by Rick and Sadler. "They'll come at you harder now," Rick warned. "This victory has humiliated them." Sadler nodded, his towering form imposing even in the dim light. "But you've proven something important. Humanity isn't just a threat. They're a revolution waiting to happen." Lena's lips curved into a grim smile. "Good. Let them underestimate us again. It makes winning that much sweeter." High above, in the Council chambers, the elders seethed. Lena Torres wasn't just surviving the tournament, she was changing the game. And the Council couldn't afford to let her continue. The revelation. The arena stood silent, its crowd watching with bated breath as Lena's latest victory echoed through the galaxy. Her win against Crowther was more than just another upset. It was a defiance of the Galactic Council itself. The whispers of Lena's triumphs grew louder, spreading through alien networks and drawing the attention of species long oppressed by the Council's iron grip. Humanity was no longer just a curiosity. It was a symbol of resistance. In her quarters, Lena sat with Sadler and Rick, reviewing the stolen schematics of the tournament arena that Rick had risked retrieving. The schematics revealed something far more sinister than she had anticipated. "This isn't just a tournament," Lena muttered, her eyes scanning the glowing hologram projected from her wrist device. "It's a trap. Every match, every arena. It's designed to eliminate threats to the Council." Zellor crossed his four massive arms, his scaled face set in a grim frown. "And you, human, are the biggest threat they've ever faced. Your victories are unraveling their control." Rick's form shimmered faintly, their voice cautious. "They'll escalate. The next match won't just test your body or mind. It'll test your resolve." Lena looked up at them, her expression hardening. "Let them. I'm not just fighting for Earth anymore. I'm fighting for every species they've crushed under their rule." The announcement for her next match came with little fanfare, but its implications were clear. The opponent wasn't just a warrior. It was the Council's own enforcer, a creature known only as Voran. Little was known about Voran, except that he was a being of immense power, engineered from the DNA of the galaxy's strongest species. He was the Council's failsafe, a living weapon meant to silence any challenger. The arena for this match was unlike anything Lena had faced before. It wasn't a natural environment or a simulated landscape. It was a vast, dark void, a place where time and space seemed to bend, where gravity fluctuated unpredictably. The rules were clear: survive and defeat Voran. As Lena stepped into the arena, she felt the oppressive weight of the Council's gaze. They wanted this to end. Voran emerged from the shadows, his towering form an amalgamation of features from countless species. His limbs were unnaturally long, his eyes glowing with a malevolent light. He moved with eerie grace, his footsteps echoing in the void. "You've come far, human," Voran's voice boomed, a deep, guttural sound that resonated in her bones. "But this is where your story ends." Lena didn't respond. Her focus was razor-sharp, her mind racing through the strategies she had prepared. Voran's strength was undeniable, but Lena knew his real danger lay in his adaptability. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a predator designed to counter any opponent. The battle began with a sudden, deafening roar. Voran lunged, his speed defying his massive size. Lena barely managed to dodge, her wrist-mounted device activating a holographic decoy just in time. Voran struck the decoy with brutal force, shattering it instantly. Lena used the distraction to analyze her surroundings. The void wasn't as featureless as it seemed. Subtle energy currents rippled through the air, creating pockets of altered gravity. Lena realized she could use these currents to her advantage. She moved swiftly, leading Voran into one of the pockets. As expected, the altered gravity threw off his movements, making his strikes less precise. Lena used the moment to deploy a series of traps, small devices she had crafted from salvaged arena tech. They emitted bursts of electromagnetic energy, temporarily disorienting Voran. But Voran wasn't so easily defeated. He adapted quickly, his body shifting to counter the electromagnetic interference. Lena's traps slowed him down but didn't stop him. She needed another plan. As the battle raged, Lena's thoughts turned to the schematics Rick had shown her. The arena itself was controlled by a central energy core, buried deep within the void. If she could access it, she might be able to turn the arena's unpredictable environment against Voran. Dodging another of Voran's devastating attacks, Lena activated her grappling line, pulling herself toward the faint glow of the energy core in the distance. Voran roared in frustration, his massive frame struggling to navigate the fluctuating gravity. Reaching the core, Lena quickly accessed its interface. The alien technology was complex, but she had learned enough during her preparation to manipulate it. With a few rapid commands, she reprogrammed the energy currents, redirecting them to focus on Voran's position. The void itself seemed to turn against Voran. Gravity surged around him, pinning him in place. Lena didn't wait for the crowd to react. She activated her final trap, a device that amplified the gravitational distortion. The force crushed Voran's defenses, leaving him vulnerable. Lena stood over the defeated enforcer, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. "You underestimated humanity." Again. The crowd erupted into chaos. Some cheered, others protested. But the message was clear. Humanity was no longer a species to be ignored. High above, the council watched in furious silence. Lena had not only defeated their strongest enforcer, but had also exposed their manipulation of the tournament. Rick and Zeller met Lena as she left the arena, their expressions a mix of relief and admiration. "You've done it," Rick said. "The council's grip is slipping." Lena shook her head. "Not yet. They won't stop until they've destroyed me and Earth. If we're going to win, we need to expose their lies." Zaller's deep voice rumbled. "Then let's show the galaxy the truth." The council, desperate to maintain control, began their final preparations. They would not lose to a human, but Lena was ready. The tournament was no longer just a battle. It was a war for the galaxy's future. The last stand. The arena stood quiet, but the tension was deafening. Lena's victories had turned her from an unknown human to a symbol of rebellion. The galaxy now watched not just with curiosity, but with hope. The Galactic Council, however, was furious. This wasn't just about the tournament anymore. It was about their authority, their control over the galaxy's destiny. The Council had one final move, an unprecedented challenge. They summoned Lena to a private chamber within the arena complex. The room was stark and cold, its walls glowing faintly with alien runes. Waiting for her was an elder of the council, their crystalline form towering and luminous, emanating an air of ancient power. "This has gone far enough," the elder said, their voice echoing like breaking glass. "Your victories are disruptive. The galaxy thrives on order, and humanity threatens that balance. We cannot allow you to continue." Lena's jaw tightened, but she remained calm. "You're afraid. That's why you've stacked the odds against me from the start. But here I am." The elder's form shimmered with irritation. "The final match will decide everything. But understand this. You are not fighting for Earth anymore. If you lose, humanity will be erased, not just from this tournament, but from existence. The Council's technology can reach across time and space. Do you truly wish to risk everything?" Lena's heart pounded, but she stepped forward, her gaze unyielding. "If humanity's survival means bowing to your tyranny, then yes, I'll risk everything." The elder's glow dimmed briefly, a sign of amusement, or perhaps respect. So be it. The final arena was unlike anything Lena had seen. It was a massive sphere, suspended in the void of space, with no ground, no walls, only an endless expanse of shimmering stars. In the center floated a titanic entity, a being created by the Council, an amalgamation of their most powerful technologies and the DNA of countless species. It was the Apex, a creature designed to embody perfection. The Apex was vast, its form constantly shifting between metallic and organic, its many eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. Its voice thundered in Lena's mind. "You are an anomaly, human. You have defied the Council, but you will not defy me." The rules were clear. Defeat the Apex, or Earth, and humanity would cease to exist. Lena activated her wrist device, her mind racing as she analyzed the Apex's movements. It attacked with beams of energy that bent through the void, seeking her out with terrifying precision. She dodged, using the arena's weightless environment to her advantage. But she knew she couldn't win through evasion alone. She recalled the schematics Rick had shown her. The Apex was powerful, but its strength came from the Council's central energy core, the same system she had hacked during her battle with Crothar. If she could disrupt the core again, she might have a chance. Dodging another wave of attacks, Lena propelled herself toward the Apex, her small figure almost insignificant against its massive form. The Apex anticipated her move, a clawed appendage swiping through the void. Lena barely escaped, activating her holographic decoys to distract it. As the Apex turned its attention to the decoys, Lena located the faint glow of the central energy node embedded within its chest. She needed to reach it, but the Apex wasn't just powerful, it was intelligent. It adapted quickly, using its shifting form to block her path. Just as the Apex cornered her, a burst of light erupted in the void. Rick and Xalar appeared, their forms shimmering with the energy of the galaxy's oppressed species. Rick's voice resonated in her mind. "You're not alone, Lena. The galaxy stands with you." Xalar charged the Apex, his massive form slamming into one of its limbs. The Apex roared, its focus momentarily split. Lena seized the opportunity, pushing toward the energy node. The Apex fought back fiercely, its form expanding and contracting as it tried to swat Lena away. But with Rick and Xalar distracting it, Lena reached the energy node and activated the device on her wrist. She hacked into the node, rerouting its power and destabilizing the Apex's form. The creature let out a deafening scream, its body convulsing as it lost control. Lena didn't hesitate. She deployed her final trap, a small but powerful explosive device designed to overload the node completely. The explosion rippled through the void, the apexes formed, disintegrating into fragments of light. The arena fell silent as the massive being dissolved into nothingness. Lena floated in the void, her body exhausted but her spirit unbroken. The crowd erupted into chaos. Cheers, cries, and stunned silence filled the galaxy as Lena Torres, the human no one had believed in, emerged victorious. High above, in the council chambers, the elders were motionless. Their greatest weapon, their ultimate enforcer, had been defeated. The galaxy's faith in their power was shattered. As Lena returned to her quarters, Rick and Sailor met her with solemn expressions. "You've done more than win a tournament," Sailor said. "You've ignited a spark." Rick nodded. "The Council's grip is weakening. Species across the galaxy are rising up, inspired by your defiance." Lena smiled faintly, though her exhaustion was evident. "This isn't just about Earth anymore. It's about freedom, for everyone." The tournament ended, but its impact rippled through the galaxy. The Council's influence waned as species united against their oppression. Lena returned to Earth as a hero, but she knew the fight wasn't over. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer in question. It was a beacon of hope for those who had been silenced for too long.